Hey guys, my name is Adam, and today I want to talk more in depth about the Ouya gaming console, which just recently made its way to the US shelves at places like Best Buy, GameStop, and Target. So, it actually started on Kickstarter and raised $8.6 million from over 63,000 backers. A very impressive run, and obviously it had a lot of support. This is a huge success for the gaming scene on Kickstarter, which is of course a fundraising website where random donators can put money towards a project that they want to see. Obviously the Ouya had quite a bit of a demand. The problem right now is the Ouya does not have a very large installed user base. What does this mean? Well, it basically means that heavy development for the Ouya is not going to happen. A lot of people are complaining that the Nintendo Wii U does not have a large installed user base. Well, I can tell you for a fact it has a much larger user base than the Ouya, and that is just because the Nintendo franchise is well established. They know Mario is going to be on there, they know all these other Nintendo games are going to be on there. It's no real surprise that they will have games. However, the Ouya is a brand new and unique concept that has never been explored before. The Ouya's main purpose is to shine the spotlight on indie development and free-to-play games, and that's something that really has never been done before. I mean, sure, the Xbox 360 had their Xbox Live Marketplace, but how many people really visited that is kind of iffy. Nobody really knows how well games actually sold on the Marketplace. I don't think it did that well. As of right now, the only place that indie development has really thrived would be on PC, where services like Steam offer tons of indie titles, and they do put the spotlight on it. Not as much anymore, but I must say that Steam did a great job with showcasing a lot of indie games, and they certainly were a huge supporter of Bastion, which took off in an extreme way. I have a real problem with the Ouya in terms of what it is offering to the masses. The Ouya right now is supporting indie development and free-to-play titles. However, you can get the same thing on an Xbox 360 and a PlayStation 3. And the only way I see this machine taking off is if tons of indie devs just refuse to develop for Microsoft and Sony and instead say, no, you know what, we're going to where we're supported, we're going to the Ouya. Except a lot of indie devs are very reluctant to do this because the installed user base on the Ouya is really bad. And you have to wonder how many people will really bother when you can already get indies on the current systems. Although indie devs are not supported as much, it is still offered on the service. So my main point here is that the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 are both offering indie development and AAA. Okay? They don't support the indie devs as much, but consumers don't really care about that, do they? They're just there to buy the games and see what looks good. Although a lot of people may sympathize with indie devs, certainly the majority is with the fact that I'm just buying games, I'm trying to have a good time, and we'll see how this pans out. So I don't know how many people will adopt this Ouya gaming console. There is currently a growing market for indie development. However, I feel the majority of that is on the PC, on Steam, on Origin, etc., etc. So I really don't see people switching from the other consoles to the Ouya. I can see a lot of PC gamers buying the Ouya, though, just to have it. But it comes down to the fact that PC in itself is also offering AAA titles and are supporting indie development. Steam is a great example. They have all the AAA titles you could possibly want, and they have tons of indie games on there. You can find just a ridiculous amount of games on Steam. Tons of indies, tons of AAAs. What is more important? I don't know. I really don't know. I am definitely a firm supporter of indie development, but I also like my AAA games. There's nothing wrong with high fidelity, graphically superior games. Indie devs definitely have unique concepts that come around once in a blue moon, but games like Bastion are a perfect example of that, but even still, I don't know if that's a good enough reason to buy the Ouya in itself. What I will say the Ouya has an advantage in is the fact that it is only $100. So I think that this holiday season we're going to see an increase in Ouya sales just for the fact that a lot of parents will be buying their kids some sort of console. They see that this Xbox One is going to be like $500, $600. I know it's not going to be that expensive. It's going to be anywhere between $400 and $500. I think it's $500 because of the Kinect, but and then they see this Ouya for $100, and they say, well, I'd like to pay $100 instead of this $500. Obviously, kids are going to be disappointed, but there will be people that buy the Ouya just because it is a lot cheaper. And I can understand that. That's perfectly fine. If you're gaming on a budget and you want to play your free-to-play games and your indie development games, you know, all the power to you. That's actually fine. If you just want to pay $100 for a gaming system, yeah, that's actually fine. And the nice thing about this is, I think a lot of people will be more willing to drop $100 on the Ouya that are brand new to gaming, rather than dropping like $500 on a console, or anywhere like over $1,000 for a PC, if you actually want to game with it. So I think that is the advantage that the Ouya currently has. However, the trouble will be getting that installed user base to actually support development on the system. Right now, the Ouya is not off to a great start. They're actually doing better than expected, apparently. At least their CEO, Julie Ehrman, is unconcerned about it, and say that the initial game sales are better than expected. But I have to say, looking at the initial figures, it does not look so great. I mean, you're barely breaking even on your top-selling game. And I think this is where the Ouya is going to fall short. Development is going to be extremely limited on this machine. People are going to release very bland, to-the-point games because they can't afford to spend tons and tons of like months on it. They can't afford to do that because they're paying their staff this whole time. You need to keep in mind that you're not just paying for the game, you're also paying every member of your staff that is working on it. I mean, a lot of indie devs do work in their garage or whatever, and it's just a one-man team, and that's great. If you can make money on the Ouya like that, then I actually support that. However, if you're actually with a 5-man team even, you're going to be paying them. Otherwise, I mean, there's no point in making the game. There's such things as passion projects, but I'd imagine you want people to actually buy it and play it. Which gets to the point, why wouldn't you just develop for Steam then? And, it's a really awkward circle that they found themselves in. Currently, the most successful game on the Ouya has been a game called Towerfall, which I don't know much about, but it seems like a game that has a lot of hype behind it. The Ouya actually pumped it up, and it was going to hopefully sell a couple extra copies of their system. And to be fair, I think if a couple of great games come out on the Ouya, then I think people will be willing to just drop that $100. However, they have to be exclusives. The Ouya cannot be weak on this. They need to have exclusives on it pronto. You need strong titles to sell your system. You cannot put it on multiple systems and do okay. I don't care if the Ouya development team has to pay development studios to put exclusives on their system. It needs to happen or this machine will not sell. But it will be easier for them to sell the machine rather than the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. They don't need to put as much effort into it as a $600 console is essentially what I'm saying. It makes a lot of sense. It really does. However, Towerfall has only made $21,000 so far. And that may sound like a fair amount of money, but when you consider that you need to pay a lot of staff, then it gets very troublesome. Because that is not much money at all. When it comes right down to it, I mean, you're only making $21,000. And keep in mind that this may be a little bit off. They may have made a little bit more by this point. But currently, $21,000 is where it sits at. You know, it just seems a little bit sad. And I think that the developers of Towerfall were disappointed as well with how poor the sales were. Because they have just recently announced that it will be coming to PC as well. I'd imagine Steam. And the port will take a few months. So clearly this was not planned. I mean, they're planning on porting it over the course of a few months. So I think they were disappointed with the sales, and now they're going to be launching for the PC. Hopefully they will make as much money as possible off of this. Keep in mind, though, that with these few months, you're still paying your staff, and you're running a little low on your budget. Unfortunately, you look at other games, and pretty much their second most successful game has just made over $4,000. And at this point, you're just scratching your head wondering, how could so few people actually pick this up? You know, we don't know the installed user base of this machine, but it must be kind of bad, because, you know, other consoles can sell enough to actually break even. This cannot be breaking even. There's no way. A game called Hidden in the Plain Sight is currently sitting at $4,000 or not even profit. It's just at $4,000. This is the problem that people are facing. I mean, it's just too soon to really judge, but I must say that currently it's not good enough. I think it will improve, but once the next gen hits, will this console take off? I doubt it. And the reason for that is because right now Sony and Microsoft have claimed that they will be supporting indie development. And a lot of indie developers are actually, scooting over in Sony's direction. They don't really talk about the Ouya anymore. I don't know how useful this machine will be. I don't know how many games will come out for it. And as sad as it is to say, I think you should wait. I really think you should wait before picking one of these up. I think you should see if this machine is taking off at all over the next couple of months. And if the next gen hits and this machine is not selling well anymore, don't pick it up. It's not worth it. Don't pick it up now especially, though. You do not want to pick this thing up because, as far as I'm concerned, when the next gen hits, this thing may die. It may die off. Because right now, Sony is supporting indie development in a way we haven't seen before. And although the Ouya is being very nice, and it's only indie games on there, so they give their full attention, we saw indie developers on stage with Sony at E3. I believe it was E3. If it wasn't E3, then it was their announcement, but I'm pretty sure E3. And that was a great moment. People saw that, I think Ray's Walking Dead was up there, Transistor, these great indie games. And it's nice. It's nice to see that Sony has moved in that direction. Even Microsoft has claimed that they are going to be moving in the direction of supporting the self-publishing indie developers. So now you can self-publish on the Xbox One, and they are planning on implementing the same thing on the Xbox 360. So I don't see the Ouya doing any better this holiday season. The only advantage it has right now is the fact that it has a much lower price point. It's set at $100. That's really nice. If you're gaming on a budget, or if you haven't experienced much gaming, then you probably will pick this thing up. If you don't know too much about... A lot of people that don't know too much about gaming may just pick this up and wonder, hey, what is this? And it might give them a good impression, and that's nice, it'll help the gaming scene grow, but how many people are really going to bother? If you're a dedicated gamer, I can't see you picking up an Ouya. I really can't. If you already have a beast PC, or you already have an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3, you're probably not going to pick one of these things up, because you can find indie devs and indie games on your service already. So there's no point in you picking this up, because it's only going to be offering that. You won't see AAA titles on the Ouya. It literally can't support it. One other nice thing about the Ouya right now, especially after looking at the bulky Xbox One, is the fact that it is portable. It's very small. And maybe that will help it in the race to, console dominance. But, I don't see this taking off. I really don't. Xbox One is boasting about their voice-controlled menus. And Sony is supporting indie development like never before. There's just so many more features on the other consoles that I don't see this thing working out. But maybe it will. I could be completely wrong. So take a couple of months. Watch its sales closely. Don't just go in and buy it randomly. I mean, it's only $100, but it's $100 you'll never get again if you actually buy it. So I would not suggest you pick one of these up yet. And although that may be the exact reason why it's not doing so well, I don't think it's worth picking up the console just to see it fail. I don't see this as being worth it yet. If the Ouya starts selling extremely well this holiday season, because, a lot of people are seeing this $100 console in comparison to the $500 one, then you can pick it up. But not yet. I don't think that this thing will take off, and you probably should not expect it to. But that is about all I have to say. Obviously, all the Kickstarter backers already have this machine, and I'm happy that you actually supported something like this. I'm happy you put money into something that would really try and support indie development and free-to-play titles, but I don't think it's worth it. One other comment on the free-to-play titles, that won't work with the Ouya. You may think that free-to-play is a great model for the Ouya, but I disagree with that. Free-to-play is horrible for the Ouya right now, because the only thing that supports that development is microtransactions, and you don't have a large installed user base. I mean, there's a reason why games like Dota 2 can get away with it, and League of Legends can get away with it on the PC, because they have a huge user base. There's tons of people playing Dota, there's tons of people playing League of Legends. They can get away with that. But the Ouya doesn't have a large installed user base. You're hardly making a profit on the games you're selling for money, whereas how are people going to buy these microtransactions? I mean, it doesn't make too much sense to me. Maybe one of you can enlighten me in the comment section. That'd be nice, but that's about all I have to say, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on the Ouya gaming console in the comment section below, and I will see you in future videos.